Kang Do-eun stood in the corner of the docking bay and watched the Valorian ship land. The ship was beautiful. It was silver and smooth, shaped like a falling leaf. It made no sound as it touched the metal floor. He was 32 years old. He had dark circles under his eyes. His black hair was cut short, and there was a small scar on his chin from a fight he barely remembered. He wore the gray uniform of a security contractor. It was not a proud uniform. It was the uniform of a man who had nowhere else to go. 3 years ago, Do-hyun was a Republic Marine. He was part of a squad called the Iron Wolves. They were good soldiers. They were his brothers. Then one night, on a small moon near the border, everything went wrong. An ambush. Fire everywhere. Screaming. When the sun came up, Do-hyun was the only one still breathing. The military said it was not his fault. They gave him a medal. Then they quietly let him go. They did not want a survivor who woke up screaming every night. They did not want a man whose hands shook when he held a rifle dot, so Do-hyun came to Orbital Station Crescent. It was a trading hub where humans and aliens did business. It was neutral ground. It was also a place where broken soldiers could find work that did not ask too many questions. His new job was simple. Guard the Valorian diplomatic party during their visit. Stand in the background. Look serious. Do not cause problems. The Valorian Empire was powerful. They controlled hundreds of worlds. Their technology was far beyond anything humans had made. Their people were tall and graceful, with silver skin and eyes that glowed in soft colors. They lived for centuries. They thought humans were interesting but primitive. Do-hyun did not care what they thought. He just needed the money. The ship's door opened. A group of Valorians walked out. They moved like dancers, every step perfect and smooth. Their clothes were white and flowing. They looked like they had never known dirt or sweat or blood. Then she appeared. Princess Yura was the youngest daughter of Emperor Tovin. She was tall, even for a Valorian. Her skin was pale silver, almost white. Her eyes were deep violet, and they held a coldness that made Do-hyun think of winter. Her hair was long and dark blue, falling past her shoulders like a waterfall at night. She was beautiful. She was also clearly unhappy. Do-hyun watched as she spoke sharply to one of her attendants. Her voice was musical but hard. The attendant bowed and hurried away with a worried face. A station official approached Do-hyun. "You're assigned to the princess personally," the official said. "Stay close. Keep her safe. And for the love of everything, don't make her angry." Do-hyun nodded. He walked toward the Valorian group. Princess Yura noticed him immediately. Her violet eyes moved over him like he was a piece of furniture she did not like. She turned to her attendant. "I requested Valorian guards," she said. Her voice was cold. "Why is there a human in my security detail?" The attendant looked nervous. "Your Highness, the station requires at least one local contractor for all visiting delegations. It is their policy. Their policy is an insult." Do-hyun stood still. He kept his face empty. He had heard worse things in his life. He had been called worse things by people who were trying to kill him at the same time. Yura looked at him directly. "Can you even understand me, human? Or should I speak slower?" "I understand you perfectly, Your Highness," Do-hyun said. His voice was flat and calm. "Then you understand that I do not want you here." "Yes, but I am here anyway." Something flickered in her eyes. Surprise, maybe. She was not used to humans who did not bow and scrape and apologize. "What is your name?" she asked. "Kang Do-hyun." "Well, Kang Do-hyun, stay out of my way. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not look at me directly. And do not embarrass yourself or your species during this visit. Can you manage that?" "I will do my job, Your Highness. Nothing more, nothing less." She stared at him for a long moment. Then she turned away and walked toward the station's interior. Her attendants followed like leaves blown by wind. Do-hyun fell into step behind them. 3 steps back. Close enough to react. Far enough to not be noticed. That was when he saw the first drone dot. It was small, no bigger than his thumb. It floated near the ceiling, painted to match the metal panels. A normal person would never notice it. But Do-hyun was not normal. He had spent years learning to see things that did not want to be seen. The drone was following Princess Yura. He said nothing. He kept walking. His eyes moved across the crowd. He saw a maintenance worker near a power junction. The worker's uniform was correct. His badge looked real. But his shoes were wrong. They were military boots, expensive ones, hidden under loose pants. Do-hyun memorized the man's face. He noted his position. He counted the exits. Something was wrong on this station. Someone was watching the princess. Someone with resources and patience. Do-hyun did not know who. He did not know why. But he knew one thing for certain. Princess Yura thought she did not need him. She thought he was beneath her notice. She was wrong, because Kang Do-hyun had failed to protect people once before. He had listened to their screams as they died. He had carried their bodies and buried their names in his nightmares. He would not fail again. Not for medals. Not for money. Not even for a princess who looked at him like he was dirt. He would do his job. And if someone tried to hurt her, they would learn what a broken human soldier could do when he had nothing left to lose. The diplomatic summit would begin in 3 days. Do-hyun had a feeling those 3 days would not be peaceful. He was right. The diplomatic summit was the biggest event Orbital Station Crescent had ever seen. Important people from both sides filled the grand hall. Human senators sat across from Valorian nobles. Reporters floated cameras through the air. Security guards stood at every door. Do-hyun stood in the shadows near the back wall. He watched everything. 3 days had passed since Princess Yura arrived. 3 days of following her through meetings and dinners and boring ceremonies. 3 days of her ignoring him like he did not exist. That was fine. He did not need her to like him. He just needed to keep her alive. The surveillance drones had not stopped. Every day, Do-hyun spotted new ones. Small, quiet, always watching the princess. Someone was gathering information. Someone was planning something. He reported his concerns to station security. They smiled and nodded and did nothing. They thought he was paranoid. They thought he was seeing ghosts. Maybe they were right. Maybe 3 years of nightmares had broken something in his brain. But then he saw the maintenance worker again. Tonight was the ceremonial banquet, the final night before the treaty signing. The grand hall was filled with music and laughter and the smell of expensive food. Humans and Valorians sat at long tables, pretending to be friends. Princess Yura sat at the head table with her attendants. She wore a white dress that glowed softly in the light. Her face was calm and royal. She smiled at the right times and said the right words. She was good at this game. Do-hyun stood against the wall, 20 steps from her table. His eyes never stopped moving. Then he saw him, the maintenance worker from the docking bay. He was wearing a server's uniform now. He carried a metal tray covered with a white cloth. He walked through the crowd with smooth, practiced steps. He was heading toward the Valorian table. Do-hyun felt his heart beat faster. Something was wrong. The man's movements were too careful. His eyes were too focused. He was not looking at the guests. He was looking at the princess. Do-hyun pushed off from the wall. He moved through the crowd. People stepped aside without knowing why. There was something in his face that made them move. The server was getting closer to the table. 15 steps. 10 steps. Do-hyun was still too far. He would not reach them in time. The server lifted the cloth from the tray. Do-hyun did not think. He did not plan. His body moved on its own. Driven by instincts burned into his bones by years of training and combat. He ran. He crossed the distance in seconds. People shouted. Guards turned. Princess Yura looked up with wide eyes. Do-hyun hit her with his full weight. He wrapped his arms around her and threw both of them to the ground. He landed on top of her, covering her body with his own. The tray exploded. The blast was bright white, like a small sun had been born in the middle of the hall. Plasma fire burst outward in a wave of burning death. It hit tables and chairs and people. Screams filled the air, but most of it hit Do-hyun. The fire slammed into his back like a giant hammer made of pure heat. His armor melted. His skin burned. His spine felt like it was being torn apart piece by piece. Pain filled his entire world until there was nothing else. He did not scream. He could not. His mouth was open, but no sound came out. Beneath him, Princess Yura was untouched. His body had blocked everything. She stared up at him with her violet eyes wide with shock. She could feel his blood dripping onto her white dress. She could see his face twisted in agony. You, she whispered. Why? Do-hyun's vision was going dark. He could feel his heart slowing down. His body was dying. He knew it. He had felt this before, on that moon 3 years ago, lying among his brothers. But this time was different. This time, he had saved someone. His lips moved. He tried to say something. Maybe goodbye. Maybe sorry. Maybe nothing at all. Then his eyes closed, and he fell into darkness. The next minutes were chaos. Valorian guards rushed to the table. They pulled Do-hyun's body off the princess. They stared at his ruined back with horror on their silver faces. He is dead, one guard said. No, another guard said, pressing fingers to his neck. There is a pulse, small, fading. But there, Princess Yura stood up. Her dress was covered in human blood. Her hands were shaking. She looked down at the broken man who had saved her life. 3 days ago, she had told him to stay out of her way. She had called him an insult. She had looked at him like he was nothing, and he had thrown himself into fire for her anyway. Get him to medical, she said. Her voice cracked. Now. Do it now. Your Highness, he is only a human. His injuries are too severe. He will die anyway. I said now. The guards obeyed. They carried Do-hyun's body out of the hall, leaving a trail of blood behind them. The assassin was dead, killed by his own explosion. Station security was already sealing the doors and questioning everyone. The treaty was in chaos. The alliance was in danger. But Princess Yura did not care about any of that. She followed the guards to the medical bay. She stood outside the door and watched through the window as doctors worked on the dying human. Hours passed. His heart stopped twice. Twice, the doctors brought him back. By morning, word had spread across the galaxy. The human contractor had saved the Valorian princess. He had taken a plasma charge to his back. He should be dead, but he was not dead. His heart kept beating. Slow, weak, stubborn. Emperor Tovan received the news on his flagship, 100 light years away. He was an old Valorian, ancient by human standards. He had ruled for 300 years. He had seen many things, but he had never seen a human sacrifice himself for a Valorian. Prepare my ship, he told his captain. I am going to Crescent Station. Your Majesty, is that wise? The situation is unstable. My daughter is alive because of a human. I will see this man with my own eyes. The Emperor's fleet arrived within hours. His warships filled the sky outside the station. No one questioned his coming. No one dared. He walked into the medical bay alone. His guards stayed outside. He stood beside the bed where Kang Do-hyun lay wrapped in bandages and machines, more dead than alive. Princess Yura was there too. She had not left since the explosion. Father, she said quietly. Emperor Tovan looked at the human, at his closed eyes, at his scarred face, at the machines keeping his broken body alive. "Tell me what happened," he said. So she told him, every detail, the explosion, the fire. The moment Do-yoon covered her with his body without hesitation. When she finished, the emperor was silent for a long time. "Who was this man?" he asked finally. "A contractor?" "No one important. Just a human soldier." "No," Emperor Tovan said softly. "Not just a soldier, a warrior, a protector." He placed his hand gently on Do-yoon's arm. "My daughter's life flows through his wounds. That makes him very important indeed." He turned to the doctors. "Save him. Use every resource we have. If he dies, I will know the reason why." The doctors bowed and worked harder than they had ever worked before. And somewhere in the darkness, Kang Do-hyun's stubborn heart kept beating. Do-hyun opened his eyes. The ceiling above him was not metal. It was smooth and white, with soft lights that pulsed like a slow heartbeat. The air smelled clean, like flowers after rain. He was not on the station anymore. He tried to move. Pain shot through his back like lightning. He gasped and fell back against the soft bed. "Do not move." A familiar voice. Musical but sharp. He turned his head slowly. Princess Yura sat in a chair beside his bed. She looked tired. Her violet eyes had dark shadows under them. "Where am I?" Do-hyun's voice was rough and weak. "The Imperial flagship Eternal Dawn. You have been unconscious for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. He closed his eyes and tried to remember. The banquet. The server with the tray. The explosion. Fire eating his back. "You saved me," Yura said quietly. "That was my job." "No, your job was to stand in a corner and watch. You were not paid to die for me." Do-hyun said nothing. She was right. He could have stayed by the wall. He could have let the guards handle it. He could have saved himself, but he had seen the tray. He had seen the look in the assassin's eyes. And his body had moved before his mind could stop it. "I have a question," Yura said, "and I want an honest answer. Ask, why did you do it?" Do-hyun stared at the ceiling. The soft lights pulsed above him like stars. He thought about lying. He thought about saying it was duty or instinct or training. But he was tired of lying. Tired of hiding. Maybe dying and coming back had burned away his walls. 3 years ago, he said slowly, I was a soldier. I had a squad. 7 men. We were ambushed on a moon near the border. I watched them die. Every single one of them. I tried to save them. I failed. Yura was silent. They gave me a medal, Do-hyun continued. They said I was a hero for surviving. But I did not feel like a hero. I felt like a coward who should have died with his brothers. His hands curled into fists against the blanket. When I saw that assassin, I did not think about myself. I did not think about the treaty or politics or anything else. I just knew that I could not watch someone die in front of me again. Not when I could stop it. He turned his head to look at her. You asked why I did it. That is why? I could not fail again. Yura's eyes were wet. She blinked rapidly and looked away. I was cruel to you, she whispered. I called you an insult. I treated you like dirt beneath my feet. Yes, and you saved me anyway. That is what you do not understand about humans, Do-hyun said. We do not save people because they deserve it. We save people because it is right. Before Yura could respond, the door opened. A tall Valorian man walked in. He was old, older than any Valorian Do-hyun had ever seen. His silver skin was lined with age. His eyes were deep gold, ancient and wise, but there was power in how he moved, command, authority. This was Emperor Tovan. Do-hyun tried to sit up. Pain stopped him. Do not rise, the Emperor said. His voice was deep and calm. You are wounded. Rest. Your Majesty, Do-Yun said. I apologize. I cannot bow properly. You have bowed enough. You bowed your entire body between death and my daughter. There is no deeper bow than that. The emperor walked to the bed. He stood looking down at Do-Hyun with an expression the human could not read. My doctors tell me you should be dead, Tovin said. A plasma charge at that range destroys everything. Your spine was exposed. Your organs were failing. Your heart stopped twice during surgery. I have always been stubborn, Your Majesty. So it seems. The emperor's lips curved slightly. Almost a smile. My daughter tells me you are a former soldier. That you lost your squad. That you believe yourself a failure. Do-Hyun felt his chest tighten. She should not have told you that. Why? Because it is shameful? Tovin shook his head. I have lived for 400 years. I have sent millions to war. I have watched sons and daughters die for causes they did not understand. Survival is not shame. Survival is strength. He pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down. Emperor to human. Eye to eye. I have a question for you, Tovin said. The same one my daughter asked. Why did you save her? Do-Hyun gave the same answer he had given Yura. He spoke of his squad. His failure. His need to not let someone die when he could stop it. When he finished, Tovin was quiet for a long time. Among my people, the emperor said finally, there is a tradition older than our empire. When someone saves your life at the cost of their own blood, a bond is formed. We call it the silver debt. It cannot be repaid with money or words. It can only be honored. He leaned forward. You owe my daughter nothing. You owed my empire nothing. You are a human from a species we barely know. Yet you gave your body to protect her without hesitation. Tovin reached out and placed his hand on Do-Hyun's shoulder. The touch was warm and gentle. In the eyes of my empire, you are no longer a stranger. You are no longer a contractor. From this day forward, you are kin to the house of Tovin. You are family. Do-Hyun stared at him. Your Majesty, I do not understand. It is simple. You carry my daughter's life in your scars. That life connects you to us forever. My home is your home. My protection is your protection. You will want for nothing as long as you live. I cannot accept that. You have no choice. Tovin's voice was firm but kind. The silver debt is not a gift you can refuse. It is a truth you must accept. Do-Hyun looked at Yura. She nodded slowly. My father does not make offers like this lightly, she said. In 300 years of rule, he has only invoked the silver debt 4 times. You are the 5th, and the first human. There will be those who object, Tovin said. Nobles who think humans are beneath us. Advisors who call this a mistake. But my word is law, and my word is spoken. You are Kang Do-Hyun, shield of the 3rd princess. You are kin. Do-Hyun did not know what to say. His whole life, he had been a soldier, a failure, a ghost drifting through years he did not want to live. Now an emperor was calling him family. His eyes burned. He blinked hard. Thank you, Your Majesty, he said quietly. I do not know if I deserve this. That is for me to decide, Tovin said. Not you. He stood up. Rest now. Heal. When you are strong enough, we will begin teaching you what it means to be part of the imperial house. He walked to the door, then stopped. One more thing, Kang Do-Hyun. My daughter told me what you said. That humans do not save people because they deserve it. That you save people because it is right. He looked back with those ancient golden eyes. I think I am beginning to understand why humanity has survived so long. You are a strange species, stubborn, foolish, brave. He nodded slowly. I believe we have much to learn from each other. Then he was gone. Yura remained. She sat in silence beside Do-Hyun's bed. This will change everything, she said finally. My father just made you part of the imperial family. There will be chaos in the court. I did not ask for this. I know. She looked at him with something new in her violet eyes. Respect, maybe. Or curiosity. But it is done now. You saved my life. Now you have to live with the consequences. Do-hyun laughed softly. It hurt his back, but he did not care. I have survived plasma fire, he said. How hard can politics be? Yura smiled for the first time since he had met her. You have no idea. She was right. He had no idea. But for the first time in 3 years, Kang Do-hyun felt something he had forgotten. Hope. 6 months passed. Do-hyun learned that Princess Yura was right. Politics was harder than plasma fire. The imperial court was a maze of rules and traditions. Every gesture had meaning. Every word carried weight. The wrong bow could insult a noble family. The wrong phrase could start a feud that lasted centuries. Do-hyun broke rules every day. He bowed too quickly. He spoke too directly. He looked people in the eyes when he should have looked at the floor. He walked too fast, talked too loud, and did not understand jokes that made Valorians laugh for minutes. The nobles whispered behind his back. They called him the human pet, the emperor's mistake, the silver fool. Do-hyun heard them all. He pretended not to care, but Emperor Tovan never wavered. Every week, he invited Do-hyun to private dinners in his chambers. They sat across from each other at a small table, eating simple food and talking. The emperor asked about Earth, about human history, about the wars and plagues and disasters that had shaped the species. He listened with genuine interest, his golden eyes thoughtful. Your people nearly destroyed themselves many times, Tovan observed one evening. Nuclear weapons, climate collapse, engineered diseases. Yet you survived every time. We are good at making problems, Do-hyun said. We are also good at fixing them, eventually. That seems inefficient. It is, Do-hyun shrugged. But we are stubborn. We refuse to give up, even when giving up would be easier. Tovan nodded slowly. I have ruled for 300 years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched species reach greatness and then fade into dust. But I have never seen anything quite like humans. Is that good or bad? I am still deciding. Do-hyun laughed. It was strange, laughing with an emperor. But Tovan was not like other rulers Do-hyun had met. He did not hide behind masks and formal words. He was old and powerful, but he was also curious and honest. One night, Do-hyun finally talked about his squad. He told Tovan their names. He described their faces. He explained how they had fought together for 3 years, how they had become brothers. He talked about the ambush, the fire, the screams, and he talked about the silence after. The terrible silence when he realized he was alone. I should have died with them, Do-hyun said quietly. For 3 years, I have wished I had. Tovan was silent for a long time. When I was young, the emperor said finally, I led armies. I watched friends fall beside me. Good warriors. Good people. I asked myself the same question you ask. Why them and not me? Did you find an answer? Yes, but it took me 100 years. Tovan leaned forward. The answer is this. Survival is not luck. It is not punishment. It is a responsibility. Those who died cannot carry their purpose anymore. So the living must carry it for them. Do-hyun's throat tightened. Your brothers died protecting something, Tovan continued. Now you carry their purpose. Every life you save, every person you protect, they protect through you. You are not alone, Kang Do-hyun. You never were. That night, Do-hyun slept without nightmares for the first time in 3 years. Meanwhile, His relationship with Princess Yura slowly changed. At first, she avoided him. She was embarrassed by her earlier cruelty. She did not know how to talk to the man she had insulted, who had then saved her life. But curiosity pulled her back. She started appearing when Do-hyun was training, watching from a distance. She asked questions about humans, their strange bodies, their short lives, their impossible emotions. How do you live knowing you will die so soon? She asked one day. Do-hyun was practicing combat forms in the training hall. He stopped and wiped sweat from his face. How do you live knowing you will die eventually? He replied, that is different. We have centuries, and we have decades. The time does not matter. What matters is what you do with it. Yura frowned. That seems like something you tell yourself to feel better. Maybe, but it is also true. He picked up his training staff. Would you like to learn? Learn what? How to fight. Human style. She stared at him. I have trained in Valorian combat arts since childhood. I know. You are excellent. But you are also predictable. He smiled slightly. Humans fight differently. We fight dirty. Against all logic, she agreed. The first lesson was a disaster. Yura was faster and stronger than any human, but her movements were elegant and precise, like dancing. Do-hyun's movements were brutal and efficient, like a wounded animal. She expected him to fight fair. He did not. He tripped her. He grabbed her arm and twisted. He used his weight against her balance. Within minutes, she was on the floor, staring at the ceiling in shock. That was not honorable, she said. No, it was effective. He offered his hand. Humans do not care about honor in a fight. We care about surviving. Slowly, she took his hand and stood up. Teach me more, she said. So he did. Day after day, they trained together. She learned to expect the unexpected. She learned to fight without rules. She learned that strength and speed meant nothing if your opponent refused to play fair. And somewhere between the sweat and bruises, they became friends. They talked while training about their lives, their fears, their dreams. Yura spoke of the pressure of being a princess, of always being watched and judged. Do-hyun spoke of his guilt and his ghosts. They understood each other in a way no one else did. You are strange, Yura told him one evening. Different from other humans I have met. How so? You are honest. You do not try to impress me or flatter me. You treat me like a person, not a title. That is because you are a person, Do-hyun said simply. The title is just clothes you wear. Underneath, you are the same as anyone else. Scared, hopeful, trying to figure out who you are. Her violet eyes widened slightly. Then she laughed, bright and surprised. No one has ever spoken to me like that. Maybe they should have. Something warm passed between them. Neither named it. Neither needed to. Meanwhile, Do-hyun's reputation in the Empire was changing. He had started training Valorian soldiers in human combat techniques. At first, they laughed at him. They were stronger and faster. What could a fragile human teach them? Then he started weighing. He fought a dozen Valorian warriors in a demonstration match. He beat them all, not through strength or speed, but through unpredictability. He changed tactics constantly. He used the environment. He turned their own power against them. The soldiers stopped laughing. You fight like wounded animals, a Valorian commander observed afterward. Yes, Do-hyun agreed. That is why we survive. Word spread through the empire. The human was not just a political symbol. He was a warrior, a teacher, something new. Nobles who had mocked him began to watch him with different eyes. Not respect, exactly, but caution, and maybe a little curiosity. One evening, Emperor Tovan called Do-hyun to his chambers. He was not alone. Several advisors stood around the room, their silver faces unreadable. "Tomorrow is the first anniversary of the assassination attempt," Tovin said. "There will be a great assembly. Every noble house in the Empire will attend." Don nodded. He knew this. He had been dreading it. "Some houses still oppose your presence in the Imperial family," Tovin continued. "They believe humans are beneath alliance. They will use the assembly to challenge your position. What would you have me do?" Tovin's golden eyes were steady. "Whatever you think is right. You are family, Kang Doyan. That means I will stand by you. But you must also stand for yourself." Dohan understood. This was not just politics. This was a test. A chance to prove that humanity belonged among the stars. He thought of his fallen brothers. He thought of everything he had learned in the past 6 months. He thought of Yura's trust and Tovin's kindness and the whispers that called him a mistake. "I will be ready," he said. He was not sure if it was true, but he would try, because that was what humans did. They tried. Even when they were scared. Even when they might fail. They tried anyway. The Grand Assembly Hall was the largest room Dohyun had ever seen. Its ceiling disappeared into darkness far above. Its walls were carved with the history of the Valorian Empire, thousands of years of conquest and glory. Every noble house was represented. Hundreds of Valorians sat in curved rows, their silver skin glowing under soft lights. They wore clothes of white and gold, decorated with symbols of their families. They looked like gods. Dohyun stood near the imperial throne, beside Princess Yura. He wore the formal robes of the imperial house. They felt strange on his body. Too elegant. Too clean. Emperor Tovin sat on the throne above them all. His face was calm, but his golden eyes moved across the crowd like searchlights. The ceremony began with speeches and rituals. Nobles spoke of the attempted assassination. They praised the security forces. They celebrated the survival of the princess. No one mentioned Dohyun. He noticed the silence. He felt the eyes on him. Some curious. Some hostile. Some simply dismissive. Then Lord Vacan stood up. He was a tall Valorian from an old and powerful house. His silver skin was unmarked by age, but his eyes were cold and ancient. He had opposed the treaty with humans from the beginning. He had spoken against Dohyun's adoption into the imperial family. Now he had his chance. "Today we remember a dark moment," Vacan said, his voice carrying through the hall. "1 year ago, enemies of the Empire tried to murder our beloved princess. They failed because of the bravery of our guards and the will of fate." He paused. His cold eyes found Dohyun. "But we must also speak of what followed. Our emperor, in his wisdom, chose to honor the human contractor who shielded the princess. He elevated this human to kinship with the imperial house. He called him family." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "I have remained silent for a year," Vacan continued. "But today, I must speak what many have thought. Why should we treat humans as equals? They are fragile. They live and die in the blink of our eyes. Their technology is primitive. Their cultures are chaotic." He pointed at Dohyun. "This man is held up as a symbol of humanity's worth. But when has he truly proven that one human can throw himself into fire? Any animal can sacrifice itself by instinct. That does not make them worthy of alliance." The hall was silent. All eyes were on Dohyun. Emperor Tovin began to rise, anger building in his ancient face. But Dohyun stepped forward first. "May I speak, Your Majesty?" Tovin paused. He looked at Dohyun for a long moment. Then he nodded and sat back down. Dohyun walked to the center of the hall. His footsteps echoed in the silence. He felt hundreds of eyes pressing down on him like physical weight. But he was not afraid. He had faced worse. He had faced fire and death and the ghosts of his brothers. A room full of nobles could not hurt him. "Lord Vacan is right," he said. His voice was calm and clear. "Humans are fragile. We break easily. We die young by your standards. Our bodies are weak. Our lives are short." He pulled aside the collar of his robe, revealing the silver scars on his shoulder and neck. The marks left by the plasma charge. The price of saving a princess. 1 year ago, I took an explosion meant to kill Princess Yura. The doctor said I should have died instantly. The plasma burned through my armor, melted my skin, exposed my spine. My heart stopped twice during surgery. He let the robe fall back into place. I should be dead. By every medical standard in this empire, I should not be standing here. But I am. Do you know why? He started walking slowly toward Lord Vacan. His steps were unhurried. His eyes never left the noble's face. It is not because humans are strong. We are not. It is not because we are smart or advanced or special. We are none of those things compared to you. He stopped in front of Vacan. Close enough to touch. It is because we refuse to stop. The hall was utterly silent. You want to know what makes humans worthy of alliance? Don said. Let me tell you about my species. We came from a small planet, covered in water and rock. We had no claws, no fangs, no armor. Every predator on our world was stronger than us. His voice dropped, becoming something harder, something dangerous. But we survived. We survived ice ages that killed everything else. We survived plagues that wiped out half our population. We survived wars with weapons that could crack continents. We survived ourselves, which was the hardest thing of all. He turned to face the assembly. We crawled out of the mud. We learned to make fire. We built cities and ships and machines that carried us to the stars. Not because we were the strongest. Not because we were the fastest. But because every time something knocked us down, we got back up. His eye swept across the crowd. I did not save Princess Yura because I am special. I saved her because that is what humans do. When someone we care about is in danger, we throw ourselves into fire without thinking. We sacrifice ourselves without hesitation. Not for glory, not for reward, because it is right. He looked at Vacan directly. You ask what humanity is worth. Here is my answer. We are worth everything we are willing to give. Every drop of blood, every broken bone, every life we lay down for people who matter to us. His voice rose. I am one human, one fragile, short-lived human, and I was enough to stop an assassin's fire. Imagine what 1 billion of us could do. Imagine what humanity could offer the Empire if we stood together instead of being dismissed as pets and primitives. He stepped closer to Vacan. His voice dropped to almost a whisper, but somehow it carried through the entire hall. And if you threaten this family again, my family, you will learn exactly how dangerous that makes us. We do not give up. We do not surrender. We endure. And we protect our own until there is nothing left of us to give. Silence stretched through the hall like a held breath. Then Emperor Tovan stood. He raised his hands and began to clap. The sound echoed like thunder. Slowly, other nobles joined him. Then more, until the entire assembly was applauding, even those who had doubted, even those who had whispered against the human, because they had seen something in Do Yun's eyes, something that could not be denied. Not strength, not power. Will, pure, stubborn, unbreakable will. Lord Vacan stood frozen. His face was blank, but something had shifted behind his cold eyes. Not respect exactly, but acknowledgement. This human was not what he had expected. Do Yun walked back to his place beside Princess Yura. She reached out and took his hand. Her fingers were cool and soft against his scarred palm. You did not have to do that, she whispered. Yes, he said quietly. I did. You just made a lot of enemies. I know. He squeezed her hand gently. But I also made something clear. Humanity is not going away. We belong among the stars, same as anyone else. The ceremony continued. The treaty was reaffirmed. The alliance held dot, and when it was over, Emperor Tovan called Do-hyun to his private chambers. They sat together in the quiet room, far from the crowds and politics. "You surprised me today," Tovan said. "I was ready to defend you, but you defended yourself. And in doing so, you defended your entire species. I just told the truth. The truth is rarely simple. What you did was more than that. You gave the noble something to think about, something to respect." Tovan smiled slightly. "I think the alliance will be stronger because of your words." Do-hyun was quiet for a moment. Then he asked the question that had been bothering him all day. "Why did you adopt me? Really? You could have given me money, honors, titles. Why kinship?" Tovan considered the question carefully. "Because you reminded me of something I had forgotten," he said. "After 400 years of rule, you begin to see people as pieces in a game. You forget what it means to act without calculation, to sacrifice without expectation." He looked at Do-hyun with those ancient golden eyes. "You threw yourself into fire for a princess who had insulted you. You did not stop to think about reward or consequences. You just acted because it was right. That is something rare, Kang Do-hyun. Rare and precious." He placed his hand on Do-hyun's shoulder. "I adopted you because you gave me a son I never expected. Someone who reminds me why I started ruling in the first place. Not for power, not for glory, for the people I protect." Do-hyun's eyes burned. He blinked hard. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For everything." "Thank yourself," Tovan replied. "You earned your place. Now make it matter." 3 days later, there was a ceremony. A small one, private, with only the imperial family present. Emperor Tovan traced Do-hyun's scars with ceremonial silver paint, marking him forever as Valorian kin. Yura stood beside him through the ritual. When it was done, she leaned close. "You are family now," she said. "Officially, forever. That still feels strange. It will feel less strange in time." She smiled. "Besides, you have already proven yourself. Not just to the Empire. To me." She kissed his cheek softly. Her lips were cool against his skin. "Welcome home, brother." Do-hyun smiled. For the first time in years, the word felt right. He had come to the Empire broken. A failure who could not save his brothers. A ghost drifting through days. He did not want to live. But he had found something he never expected. Family. Purpose. A reason to keep breathing. And he understood now what Tovan had told him. Survival was not luck or punishment. It was responsibility. He carried his brother's purpose in his heart. Every life he saved, they saved through him. He was not alone anymore. He never had been Kang Do-hyun, once a broken soldier from a small planet, now stood among emperors and princesses. Not because he was special, but because he refused to give up.